All right, welcome back to the Jewish Roots Life Group. And since we just finished Purim when the sun set today, we're going to look at the prophecies in Purim. Now, I did get information from, first of all, Rabbi Mordecai Kraft, who the latter part of all of this is where I got his information. The first part of the information I got from Rabbi David Foreman. And I'll tell you who gets credit for what and all that. So I took both of their informations and put them into this. What is Purim? What's in a name? Everything's in a name, right? So Purim is the root word of Purim is pur, P-U-R in English. It means lot, like they cast lots, or determine the fate of something by casting lots. It is a double meaning. A lot of Hebrew words have double meanings. The double meaning is annul, which has the sense of like when you have a marriage and then you have an annulment to a marriage, it does away with it. So it does have a double meaning of casting lots for fate or annulment, which we'll see here in a minute. Pur, the root word pur, is made up of three Hebrew letters, pei, vav, resh. Pei, mouth or to speak. Vav is a connection, and resh is the sufficiency of God. So if you put these three letters together in a sentence, the root word for pur means speaking with a connection to the sufficiency of God, which some people would say that sounds like making a vow, where you make a vow to God, right? All right, so let's look at Numbers 30:16, where it talks about making a vow. A man can accept or annul a vow of a woman if he remains silent, then he naturally accepts the vow and the consequences. And you can go back to Numbers 30:16 and look at that whole context. But what he's saying is a man can annul a vow of a woman. If he does not, then he naturally accepts. And what he's talking about is a woman is doing something incorrect, he can annul that. Or if he says nothing and keeps silent, then it's automatically inferred that he goes along with it. But if that happens, he has to accept the consequences the same as her. And you'll see that in the book of Esther. Mordecai tells Esther, you must say something to the king, not keep silent, to annul the decree set in motion by Haman. What is the connection with the word annul, the meaning of annul, and lot or casting fate? That's what we're headed there. Let's connect the dots. The word Kim, K-Y-M, I guess the acronym, are the three letters for the root word that's all through the book of Esther, and it means affirm or stand up and arise. Kind of like when you stand up in a court and you give your testimony, you give your affirmation, you stand up. This is used throughout, completely through the book of Esther. And it's made up of three Hebrew letters, kuf, vav, and mem. The kuf means children of promise. The vav, which saw previously, means a connect or connection. And the mem is a probationary period followed by renewal. So this affirmation has the meaning of children of promise connecting to a probationary period followed by renewal. Let's keep going. You say, wait a minute, what's that got to do with Purim? Hold on. Pur, remember, means a lot or annul, right? And if you add the word in Hebrew for the word day, it's yom, okay? All right, ready? Hold on, you're coming in for a landing. You put these three together, you get Yom Kippur, which sounds a lot like Yom Kippur. What is Yom Kippur?
It's a celebration that the Jewish people celebrate every year.
For the day of?
Atonement.
Atonement, yes. It is an affirmation of the annulment of sin. Let's look at the connection. What happens during Purim? Okay, lots were cast in the book of Esther. Haman cast lots to see what day the Jews were to be wiped out or killed. correct? What happens on Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement? Lots are cast to determine which of the two goats, one is a sacrifice and one gets set free as a scapegoat. Is that not right? So you see a connection here. And Purim and Yom Kippur are days that a lot is cast to determine fate. It connects the children of promise to the annulment of the death decree. In Esther, there's a death decree by Haman. Esther annuls it. Yom Kippur, every day, the high priest goes, sprinkles the blood on the mercy seat, to two goats, one is sacrificed, one is set free. There is an annulment of sin for our death decree. Do you see that connection? Is that not cool? Never thought about Purim and Yom Kippur being connected like that. But wait, there's more. Of course there's more. Let's connect the dots of Esther. This is the part that I said was kind of new that she now knows. Genesis 44:33. Now therefore let your servant remain instead of my lad as a slave to my Lord, and let the lad go up for his brothers. For how should I go up to my father if the lad is not with me, lest perhaps I see evil that would come upon my father? I'll tell you what's going on here in just a minute. Here's Esther 8, verses 5 and 6. Let me tell you what's going on here, so you know what's going on here, so you get the connection. This is the story of Jacob and Judah and Benjamin. They go to Joseph, who they think is dead. They think their brother Joseph is dead, so they go to Egypt because there's a famine in the land for food. And Benjamin, Joseph figures out who they are. He hides one of his cups in Benjamin's knapsack or backpack, whatever you want to call it, and he gets caught. But Judah makes a promise to Dad, says, I'll take care of Benjamin, make sure everything's okay. So that's where we are, right? Now, let's go to Esther. And here in Esther, Esther says, how can I endure to see the destruction of my countrymen? Here's where the English kind of misses the translation, and you really won't get the connection unless you see it here. Thank you very much. So, these two are exactly the same. What he's saying here is, oh my gosh, how can I ever bear it if something ever happened to Benjamin? Oh my gosh, I couldn't bear it, Esther speaking, if something happened to my countrymen. All right? If you want to see it in Hebrew, this is Genesis, this is Esther. Here are the words, bara, asher, yitzah, et. This is Genesis. Here it is in Esther, bara, atser, yitzah, et. The same exact phrase. Esther is quoting Judah from Genesis. The same thing that Judah said is the same quote that Esther used. Is that not cool? See, I told you it was cool. The same exact words. These two phrases, it's the only time it ever appears in the Bible. These two instances. And you say, okay, that's really cool. She quotes Judah. Okay. What if it happened again? Is there deja vu with Esther? Maybe. You say yes? Yes, because there's a slide about it, right? Deja vu with Esther. Yes. Genesis 43:14. And may God Almighty give you mercy before the men that may release your older brother Benjamin. If I am bereaved, I am bereaved. That's Dad speaking. Talking about releasing Benjamin to go to Egypt. What does Esther say? Obviously, Esther's going to say the same exact thing, but what was happening at the time? Esther says, go gather all the Jews who were present in Shushan. Shushan was the capital. And fast for me, neither eat nor drink for 3 days. That's the fast of Esther. My maids and I will fast also likewise, and I will go to the king, which is against the law. If I perish, I perish. Now that's the New King James, but this is the same exact as this. Let me back up here real quick and give you a quick history of why this is so connected. Jacob, Rachel, and Leah, right? Leah had 2 kids, Benjamin and Joseph.
Rachel.
Rachel.
That's what I said.
No, it isn't.
That's what I said, Rachel and Leah. Rachel had Benjamin and Joseph, right? They think Joseph is dead. The only one left is Benjamin. So now you know why he's saying, hey, if something happens to Benjamin, I'm as good off as dead. I'm bereaved, I'm bereaved. And that's why Judah says, hey, don't worry, I'm going to make sure nothing happens to Benjamin. Because that would have wiped out the whole lineage of Rachel. Correct? So that's the same sentiment here of Esther. If I die, I die. If we all die, we all die. And that's the same sentiment here is what happens here. And that's why she quotes from the same Jacob and from the same Judah and Benjamin, the same passage in Genesis. Same storyline. She's quoting. So you see the parallel and the connection. And this is the only other time that these 2 sentences are used in all of the Bible.
So the Hebrew is the same.
The Hebrew is the same. The English is not.
That's fascinating.
That's why I'm bringing it out to you. Okay, connecting the dots with Judah. Are you ready for this? Judah steps in to save his brother, Benjamin, to abide by the promise he gave to his father that Benjamin wouldn't perish. Correct? So he steps in. Here's Pharaoh. He steps in and says, hey, no, let Benjamin go. Take me instead. And da-da-da-da, right? So Judah saves Benjamin. Benjamin was the last heir to, Rachel, because they thought Joseph was dead. Right? Okay. All right, hold on. Buckle up. We're coming in for a landing here. Here it comes. Benjamin, Esther, and Mordecai were from the tribe of
Let me guess.
Benjamin. And guess what Esther does? She steps in to save her brother, Judah. So it's a repayment. That's why she quotes back to it. Does that make sense? Are you getting it? So that her brothers wouldn't perish. Esther also promises her father Mordecai. Mordecai raised her as a father because she didn't have no mother and father mentioned. And Mordecai raised her as a father. She promised her father, who talked her into going to the king. And she said, okay, if I'll do it. If I die, I die. So now you see the connection to Genesis and the story of Jacob and Joseph and Benjamin and Judah. And that's why she's quoting it. Are you with me? Is that not the coolest?
I have never seen that before. That's amazing.
I hadn't either till last week. That came from, that one came from Rabbi Foreman. The rest is going to be from Rabbi Kraft. All right. Now, this is kind of how it all intertwines. Connect the dots of Haman. We're going to go to Haman now. That was Esther and Judah. Okay. 1 Samuel 15:1 is the story, and I'm going to tell you, he says, I will punish Amalek. And Samuel the prophet is telling King Saul, go wipe everything out. Don't leave nothing. And that's what he says. Utterly destroy all. Man, woman, infant, nursing child, ox, sheep, camel, donkey, everything. Wipe it all out. Don't leave anything, nothing. Okay. So that would be the end of the Amalekites. Would it not? You wipe them all out, there's nothing left. No. 1 Samuel 15:33, Samuel said, as your sword has made woman childless, so shall your mother be childless among women. And Samuel hacked Agag in pieces before the Lord. What happened here? Saul didn't do what he was commanded to do. He killed everything but the king of Agag and brought the king back. Samuel found out about it. He says, what in the world? And hacked him to pieces. He said, God told you not to spare anything. And he hacked him to pieces. That's what's happening. You with me so far? So the Amalekites should be gone. But in Esther chapter 3, we see that Haman was the son of Hammedatha, who was a Agagite. He said, wait. I thought they were done. I thought he finished them all. How can we still have some Agagites left? And where did they come from? Well, we see here that Agag cut, this is what we just read from Samuel, he cut him to pieces. Haman is called the Agagite in Esther 3 and 8, chapter 3, 1 and 10, chapter 8, 3 and 5. The Jews consider him to be a descendant of Agag, the Amalekite. How can this be? How can this be? Watch this. I'm going to connect some more dots. Where did the Amalekites come from? Genesis, going back to Genesis again, 36:12. Eliphaz, the son of Esau, the patriarch Jacob's brother and sworn enemy, and his concubine, Timnah, had a child named Amalek. So this is where they all came from. How did Amalek come to be? Eliphaz was the son of Esau. Esau did not like Jacob. Eliphaz hated Jacob and kept stirring that hatred. He got with a concubine named Timnah and had the son Amalek. And they became the nation of Amalek. Okay? And this is the actual Genesis 36:12 here. So you're with me so far? All right. Is it possible? Is it possible? Jewish tradition states that King Saul not only spared the king Agag, but he also let him have a concubine as well. And from that concubine, just like Eliphaz, produced an offspring that led to the descendant of Haman. So just like Eliphaz did with a concubine and produced that offspring, it is said that he produced an offspring with a concubine. That would explain where Haman came from. That's Jewish tradition. That's according to the Midrash and all the sages and everything. It's not actually in the Bible text, but that's what they say. It would make sense. Is it possible? Sure. Haman would never have existed if King Saul had obeyed the word of God by killing Agag along with it. So we would never have the book of Esther had Saul killed King Agag. Because none of this would have had to have happened. Right? Had King Saul killed him, none of this would have had to have happened. But God made a way. In Deuteronomy 25:17, God says, remember what Amalek did to you when you came out of Egypt. You know, he had the parting in Pharaoh's army and the water. Okay. When they came across on the other side, they was like, yes! And they said, no! Amalek came and broadsided them and attacked them. That's why God was so mad. And he says, you will blot out the remembrance of Amalek from under heaven. You shall never forget this. That is the reason that during Purim, when we say the name Haman, you use the noisemakers to blot out his name because he was an Amalekite. Cool. So that's why. All right. Here's the part that's Mordecai crafts. All that was what we just had was Rabbi Foreman. Now we're getting to Rabbi Crafts material. Haman's 10 sons are listed here. They're listed in the book of Esther. Esther 9, as a matter of fact. And here they are. They're listed. The 10 sons of Haman. And here's what I'm going to get into. Here is the prophecy that Esther put into writing that hasn't been discovered until recently. The prophecy is right here. Esther 9 says, wait a minute, we destroyed 500 men and the 10 sons of Haman, and here's their names. So the 10 sons of Haman are dead. But you go down to here in verse 13, Queen Esther says, hey, tomorrow do the same thing, but let Haman's 10 sons be hanged. You want to hang 10 sons that are already dead? That doesn't make sense to us, but you will make sense when you understand this is the whole prophecy in Purim. This prophecy was completed fairly recently, and that's why nobody ever understood this until fairly recently. Here we come. Are you ready? I'm going to take you up, and then we're going to come in for a landing, and then you're like, yes! I promise her your money back. This is the only place in all the whole Bible where it looks like this. Most of your scrolls and your texts look like this. Nice columns. But here, this is the only place in the whole Bible that it looks like this. These are the 10 sons of Haman, right here. These are their names, right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All of these are and. This one and that one, and that one, and. Okay. This means sons. So you're with me. The only place in the Bible. Why is it written like that? Why did Esther write it like this? Woo, wait, I can't wait to tell you. This is what the Megillah or the scroll of Esther would look like until you get to that part. See how the text is all nice and even and nice lines, okay? You'll notice here this is a closer version of it. You'll see that the letters here that are pointed in yellow, you have a smaller tav, letter tav, a smaller letter sheen, and a smaller letter zayin, and a larger vav. And if you say, how do you know that? This is a vav here. This is what the vav is supposed to look like here. All of these are vavs. See how much bigger that is? And if you say, here's a sheen, a small sheen, and there's what the sheen looks like in normal size, that's a little tav, and here is what the tav would look like normal size. So you're telling me that for some reason these letters were written intentionally smaller. Why? I'm glad you asked. And this is the only place in the whole Bible that this exists. Oh, but wait, what's in the letters? Tav, Zayin, Sheen, you add them up, 707. You say, okay, so what? Oh, but wait, what was the bigger letter? You remember Vav. So what is the Vav? Remember the bigger letter Vav here? All right, so here we have, let's take each letter and see what it means. Tav is a divine ordained period of time. Sheen is God Almighty. Zayin is divine completion, and the Vav is a connection. So with these three, somewhere in all of this is a divine ordained period of time by God Almighty to some sort of completion, and it's all connected. Right? So something here, God has something in His specific time frame that He's going to complete, and there's going to be a connection. Ooh, he's anxious. I can see it. What is it? All right, here we go. What is the Vav connection? I'm glad you asked. How many times has 707, remember I said all that added up to 707? How many times has 707 occurred in human history? Let's take a look. The year 707, 17, 2707, 6 times.
That's in the Hebrew.
That's in the Hebrew calendar,
Yeah.
yes. 6 times. What did the letter Vav represent, the number? 6. So here's your connection to these numbers. What is that connection? Vav has the numerical value of 6, so here we go. Vav connects the number 707 to the year 5707. How? If you count 6 times, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, it lands on 5707. You're with me? All right. You say, so what? 5707 in our calendar is 1946 on the Julian calendar. Ooh, no, he finally gets it. He's like, oh yes. What happened in 1946? We just ended World War II in 1945. What was going on? It was the Nuremberg trials.
Oh, that's right. You told us that.
Yes. Execution was scheduled for June of 46, but they couldn't decide on firing squad or hanging. Firing squad was for soldiers, hanging was for common criminals. So on October 16th, 1946 was the last day of Rosh Hashanah, or the day that brings judgment upon the world. So the day that the hangings were executed, no pun intended, the day that the hangings were carried out was the day that judgment is upon the world from God. So the prophecy from Esther pointed toward this. So
And
watch.
were there 10 people executed?
Wait a minute.
But wait, there's more.
You had 10 sons, right? Let them be hanged. Okay, here we come, World War II. The family of Haman, he had 10 sons and 1 daughter. You say, how do you know he had 1 daughter? Because if you back up in Esther, when his plot backfired, he said, hey, the king said, what can I do to honor somebody? He said, well, parade him around in your horse, put your robe on him, and says, okay, do that with Mordecai. No! And so he led Mordecai. Well, his daughter saw it from the window. And the sages say that she committed suicide and fell out the window. So he had 11 kids altogether. 1 committed suicide. All right? Watch this. There were 12 in the Nuremberg trials that were sentenced. 1 was not there. 1 was tried in absentia, and that was Martin Bormann. So you have 12 altogether. Here's their names, and 1 for each tribe that was to be saved by Esther. Martin Bormann was tried in absentia. He wasn't there. He was later found that he died on May 2nd in 45 while trying to flee Berlin. Okay, so take him out of the equation. How many's left? You had 12. How many's left?
11.
11. Hermann Göring. He was the one that the night before they were all to be hanged,
Whatever.
hung,
Executed.
executed. He committed suicide with a cyanide capsule. How it got into the prison, I don't know. That's another, but anyways. But it is true. And so you had 12, 1 was not there. He committed suicide. How many's left?
10.
10. How many sons of Haman were there? 10. So here's the criminals. October 16th, 1946, all of these were hung on the gallows. So that it started in November of 45. The decision came in October 1st. They were hung on October 16th. Vav equals the number 6. October 16th was Tishri 21, which is by Jewish tradition, like we said, the King of Heaven executes judgment on the nations. There is no way that the people in Nuremberg knew what this date was.
Well, the Jews did.
All right, 10 hung. Here's the ones that were named. Notice how I have one. The last one that was to die was Julius Streicher. This is really incredible. Julius Streicher was the only one that was not a soldier. He was the propagandist that had books and magazines and taught the kids how to hate the Jews and called the Jews monkeys and all kinds of horrible things, and led the whole propaganda thing for Hitler. Julius Streicher, here it is. Watch this. This is really blows your mind. He's the last one to die. And before he is hung, his last words, they had an American journalist writing down everything that happened, and guess what? We're talking about a Nazi that hated Jews, and his last words were, "This is my Purim fest. This is my Purim fest. I go to God, the Bolsheviks will one day hang you too." A German Nazi saying, "This is my Purim fest? This is my Purim celebration?" Isn't that wild?
That is crazy.
All right, we're going to keep going. Haman and Hitler. Watch this. Haman was rejected by Mordecai. The whole thing in Esther was because Mordecai didn't bow down to him when he walked by. And that's why he got mad and made the law so that everybody has to bow down. Mordecai didn't do it. And that's what started the whole thing. Had 10 sons hung and one daughter that committed suicide. He wanted to kill all the 12 tribes of Israel. He started this whole Purim thing, right? Casting lots to see what day he would wipe out all the 12 tribes. And he was an Amalekite. All right? Hitler. He was rejected by the Jews as an artist, which that is true. He wanted to be an artist. 10 leaders were hung. Goring committed suicide. 12 were sentenced. We saw that. Stryker declared Purim Fest. And guess what the sages say Stryker was? Stryker was a descendant of the Amalekites. Wow. So, even when you can't see him, he's working. Watch this. Purim, in Esther's day, was a declaration by a known ruler of the world to destroy all the Jews everywhere in every territory. Hitler, the Third Reich, was a declaration by a known ruler to destroy all the Jews everywhere in every known territory. Esther spoke a prophecy that was fulfilled almost 2,500 years later. And there it is. There's the prophecy that was spoken and was fulfilled when the Nazi war criminals, the 10 Nazi war criminals were hung, just like Haman's sons were ordered to be hung. So when she said, tomorrow hang the 10 sons of Haman, it was a prophecy that was fulfilled in 1946.